You got me?
Yeah. Oh, shit. There we go. I had to go live over here too. There we go. Look at us go. Frick, it's like we know what we're doing.
Almost.
Almost know what we're doing. Go down a skosh. There it is. He's hammering down the water. Good for you. It's live. We'll let it get there for a minute. Look at this. So I get these the tack packs, and there's this. I love knives about as much as I love guns. This American Buffalo company puts a knife in there every month. Look at this little gem. Okay.
Oh, that's wicked looking.
Yeah, that's a neat little. Fits perfect. That's a neat little knife.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. Getting in a gunfight doesn't scare me nearly as much as getting in a knife fight.
Yeah, I don't want to get stabbed too bad. That'd suck.
I've been in a gunfight and it sucked, but getting cut up just scares me to death. So
that'd be worse. I think
it would definitely be worse.
Yeah.
Some dude coming at you like a sewing machine.
Especially if they're good at it.
Right.
They'll stick you like 12 times before you even know it. That
blue
rifle looks good.
At either one of those things. So
yeah,
it does.
Those hooks on our slat wall scared the shit out of me though, because I can just see those guns ending up on the ground. I mean, crying. Need to get better.
That 50 hung up there for like a year.
Yeah, but so these ones that I have right here, they're big. They're like, I don't know, they're like huge. And then it has a hook so that it can't slide off. We need to
get. You guys see what Cole calls huge?
No, I could look through it.
He's like, they're big.
Hey, look,
they're like that big around.
Hold on, look. See, it's right there. What a douchebag. Yeah, that's rude. All right, I had to go get me a Red Bull before we started. All right, let's get going. So we get calls nonstop about let's start with the basics. So I don't want to go off on a tangent because we can go there. I want to start off with cut rifle versus button pull rifle. Now, first off, let's explain what each is. Nick, this is you.
Yeah, so button pulling, cut rifle. I mean, all rifling is pulled, basically from the breech to the muzzle. In most cases, I mean, there's other types out there that are hammer forged. We're not going to get into that because it really doesn't pertain to the precision rifle industry. But there is a lot more stress put on a barrel during the button pulling process, or at least there can be, depending on when you're comparing them to cut rifling. Cut rifling, single point cut rifle barrels are cut anywhere from 2/10,000ths to half of a thousandths per pass every time. Index, cut the next groove, index, cut the next groove. And it's proven that button pulling does put more stress on the barrel. But the reality is both of them put stress in barrels. So if you were to ask me 20 years ago, which barrel should I get? Should I get a button pulled or should I get a cut rifled? I would have told you absolutely has to be cut rifled. There's no other barrel to buy. In fact, if it's not cut rifled, it's not a barrel at all. But we do things differently today. The machinery is better. You have companies out there creating better gun drilling systems that are, I mean, it's just better all the way around. The heat treating is better, better ovens, vacuum chambers. They're controlling temps better. And then you have cryogenics treating on top of that. So if you take a good button pull barrel like a Benchmark, a Brux, the old Broughton barrels were freaking awesome before they went under. They all cryoed. And if you ask those guys, what made their barrels so good, they would have all told you it was in the stress relief. Because you need rifling in a barrel, right? It doesn't really matter how you get the rifling in there. What matters is the end product, and stress left over in a barrel, whether it's a cut barrel or a button pull barrel, it's not going to matter. They're both going to suck. So the companies that do the best job, they do the, they have the cleanest bores, they do the nicest lapping, and most importantly, they do the best stress relief.
Yeah. So, and I mean, here's the deal. We get people calling all the time. Well, I have to have a cut rifle barrel because they shoot better. Okay. Do you have proof that they shoot better, or is that just something that you read in a forum somewhere that somebody else told you? Now, 95% of the time, if we sent a customer 3 different barrels, they probably could never tell the difference between any of the 3. They'd never know.
Nope.
They'd all shoot 6s. They'd all about clean the same. They'd all do, everything. Now, cut rifles are usually a little bit more because they're more labor intensive, and they're usually a little bit harder to get because they take a little bit longer to build. But what we've seen as of recently, I mean, we've got people calling in. They're like, dude, this is the most accurate barrel. This has got to be a cut rifle barrel. We're like, no, it's not. Most of that comes down to, in my opinion, the gunsmith who puts it together and their attention to detail. Because I just watching some of the videos that some of these gunsmiths are putting out, and please do not take this like I'm bashing anybody or putting straight jacket above everybody. But some of these videos that I've seen lately of these guys on lathes trying to chamber some has been cringeworthy. But it's because we know what we're looking for, and everybody else kind of just doesn't understand the process of going through it. But I think, in my opinion, the bigger chance is the gunsmith and not the barrel. Now, there are some barrels that we've seen lately that are horrendous, like the finish of them. The attention to detail. And of course, the biggest thing that I think sets a barrel apart is the lapping, the hand lapping portion of it. It's probably one of the biggest. The consistency. Me and Nick were constantly on the phone. How do we keep consistency? How do we keep barrel to barrel consistency, so that we know that every one of our customers are getting the best possible barrel that they can get? And Nick, do you kind of want to, in what you've seen, explain the lapping? Now, there's different types of lapping. What is it? There's 3.
There's hand lapping. Let me go back to like Douglas Air Gauge days and take you back to like Nick Arnold's first gunsmithing days. The way that you were talking about the cringeworthy videos. I have cut barrels that way when I was a teenager. Like that's how we all learn things. We start out doing something and then we figure out how to build a better mousetrap over and over and over and over again. The better companies out there, we've just had more time to, work out the details in our process. But as far as the lapping goes, Cole and I had a call with a barrel company. What was it, like back in June? And the first barrels we got when we put the scopes in there, like, what the heck? These are purple inside. Why are they purple? Oh, because they didn't get lapped. Okay. The 416R stainless, when it's brought up to about the right temperature, should turn a purplish kind of rusted color. Anyway, we called the company and they're like, well, you don't really need to lap them. And I've heard that time and time and time again from barrel makers. I've heard it from rifle companies, and they're kind of right. They're halfway right. They're right in the fact that you don't need to lap them. You can fire lap them or shoot and clean and shoot and clean and shoot and clean until the barrel finally cleans up. And they're right. It will eventually clean up. It will work out most of those rough spots or wows in the barrel, and they'll start shooting. But that's not where the magic comes in our industry in 2024. This industry in 2024, our customers expect things like this. These were the first 15 shots down a button pulled barrel. That's what our customers are wanting from the products that they're buying. They do not want to have to shoot in a barrel. I don't want to have to shoot in a barrel. So it's a little frustrating. So you have hand lapping. Generally, that's done by pouring lead in the barrel. pushing the lap out, attaching it to a rod, and most guys use like 220 to 280 grit. It's almost like a valve grinding compound. And they push and pull that through the barrel. As they're doing that, I've seen some barrel makers that air gauge right after the rifling's cut in, and then again after they do the lapping, so they can try and get the tight spots out. But there's also some new tech out there where people are doing the lapping with a hone. Hand lapping generally on an air gauge will hold 2/10,000ths, which I'm not sure that I actually believe. A hone will hold microns, or it will actually hold bore consistency in the millionths. And the nice thing about a hone is generally a hone having its own button will create a more round profile in the barrel, where a lead lap is going to take almost a polygonal shape and keep it polygonal as you lap it. You're just reaffirming that same surface, where a hone will actually resurface. In my personal opinion, I hope I see more companies using hones in the future, just due to the bore consistency. And that's kind of like, well, that's always our biggest problem. We get barrels that are exceptional, which are like, I would call an exceptional barrel something that shoots like this. That's an exceptional barrel. It's
shot that with these eyes shut too.
I did, blindfolded with half my brain tied behind my back. But these are like 1 in 1,000 barrels when they do this right away. It doesn't happen that often. Then we get really good barrels, which I would consider to be 90% of the barrels that go out, and we get decent barrels, which are probably 8%, which require a little more shooting, a little more cleaning, which doesn't make anything a bad barrel. And then about 0.5 to 1% of the barrels we get are just complete rejects. And it doesn't matter who it's from. Everybody, there is a human element to barrel making. You're never going to have 100%, no matter how bad you want it. But those are barrels that when we get them, we're hoping that we see something in them visually, something we can measure, something we can feel that allows us to pull that barrel out before it gets cut and goes out, gets shipped out to a customer. Cole, I've been talking a lot, like, gosh, what should we do? We expand, like, what would be the best thing to control? And I'm like, barrels, because barrel makers, generally, there's 3 steps to making a barrel. You have deep hole drill, you have the reaming process, and the rifling process. Those guys have opportunities that when the deep hole drill goes through, if they see that it's not straight, they can throw that product away and recycle it before they even bother taking it the rest of the way through the process. Whether or not that happens comes down to the operator on the machine and his willingness to, look that over before he takes it to reaming, and again from reaming to rifling. So it'd be nice to have control of that for sure. But that's kind of where we're at with them.
I'm responding to people over on Instagram. So somebody asked me if we had an air gauge system, and like that, honestly, that's something that the barrel manufacturer should control. Like, as a builder, when we get something in here, why should we have to do that? Because we paid you for something. That's just like when you buy a barrel, would you have to go try and screw, try and build threads on the end of it? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you paid for it and that's what you get. So we expect, yeah, we expect our barrel makers to do that. Now, of course, you can't control everything, and that's why we, number one, bore scope everything when it comes in, and number two, we pin gauge a lot of it. Everything, when we dial in for the ends, for the muzzles and everything, they're pin gauged. If they're under, if they're over, we know exactly we've got a problem. Now, if they're over, what leads to that? And then we start asking questions. Have they over lapped it? Is the bore too big? Then we go down that range. But we know when we stick those gauges in every time, okay, we're within a consistency that we can measure. Now, if it's bigger or less, then we take that barrel and we go deeper down the rabbit hole as to, okay, why is this barrel deeper down the hole? And then do we reject it, or is it still within tolerances, but we let the customer know? I mean, there's some different things that we do, but most of the time, if it doesn't fit those gauges, the barrel's going back. There's no questions asked because we don't want to put it out there. We love you all, but we don't want you calling back 13 times wondering why they can't get it to shoot either. So that's why we want to control it, better than anything.
Yeah, for example, we have big sets of pin gauges in the shop. Some of our pin gauges are like 1 thou increments. Some of them are 2 10,000ths increments. And if I take a 6 millimeter barrel and I take a 23.2365 pin, I should be able to run that pin down the barrel. You run that pin down the barrel and it gets stuck in the middle. It's got a tight spot in it. Then we have some longer gauging rods that we had built. We'll go ahead and put a pilot on that and see exactly how tight it is. Is it too tight? Is this something that's going to come out? Do I need to put some abrasives in there real quick? Does it just have a burr in there? We find all kinds of stuff in barrels from time to time. And there's also times where we've called customers and said, look, I just got done cutting your barrel. I got it cut to length. I put the scope in there and there is just a little spot on the rifling that makes me say, think to myself, I think it's going to catch copper. I don't want to send it out to the customer this way. I'll get on the phone with the customer and say, hey, that 26-inch barrel you want, I'm just about done with it, but I did find a little ding, like a 1/4 of an inch up in the rifling. Are you okay with a 25.5-inch barrel? Just so that we can ensure that you're not going to have any issues. 1/2 inches is going to mean any hill of beans when it comes to speed. 99 times out of 100, the customer is just going to thank us for letting them know. We're going to shorten it up just a little bit and ship it out. There's always a little bit of something.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had that recently now. When I was at Barnes, when we had ammo test barrels, the tolerances were nuts. I had to keep everything. That's a whole nother level of measuring. But I found over time that it's not on the ends of the barrel. It's actually in the middle of the barrel where you have a lot of issues. There's a bulge, which as your bullet's going down, the gases kind of trap and go around it, and you have a lot of crazy crap go on. So checking the entire length of the barrel is a really big one that we've made, strides to try and do. Now it's hard. It's hard to do with pin gauges and stuff. Do you put it down? How do you measure that? And it's really hard to do that without air gauging it and without some of the higher end stuff. And some of them we just kind of have to roll with, but I don't think we've seen anything as of recently that leads to that. I think a lot of it has to do with the heat treat process. From talking to some of the barrel manufacturers, and Frank from Bartline's going to come on here in a couple weeks, and he wants to have a conversation with us all about this kind of stuff because it's all about the education, right? You don't know what you don't know. And we want to make sure that when you go, whether it's you coming to Straight Jacket or wherever you're going for your stuff, you know what to ask, because that's a big one. A lot of people call us and they have no idea what they're looking for. And so we have to kind of sit down and educate them. And if we can do that now, when you call or when you go and place the order, you know what you're looking for, especially. Let's go. So we've gone over rifling profiles, gone over lapping. Let's go over real quick. Exterior profiles. So, a lot of people, if you're on the hunting end, if you don't want carbon, you go 3B. If you want super heavy, you go the new VCC, which we can get across a few brands. Benchmark kind of put that contour out there, but a few of them make contours really close to it. And then everything in between. Everybody asks me, why is M24 so popular? And M24 is so popular because the military made it popular. If you were TAC, sitting in your mom's basement and you're tactical and everything, the M24 was what you wanted because you were bad. I'm just kidding. I know somebody's going to take offense over that, but it's fine. But that's why everybody wanted the M24. Now, our most popular is by far the MTU. The MTU for, competitive shooting, and then you can flute it, you can do whatever you want, but most people just leave the MTU. When I started shooting PRS, which was a long time ago, because I shot a freaking medium palm, I think, and that's what I wanted. Now we know exactly that probably isn't what you want to shoot when you shoot something that heats up really fast. But it just kind of depends. We've learned a lot of things over the years. Are you hunting or are you competing? Okay. How much weight do you want? There's a few questions that we ask there, right? And do you want heavy for recoil? Do you want medium weights? You can hunt and shoot competitively with it. Like, what are the things that you're looking for when you build a barrel? So, I mean, like a couple of mine have MTUs on them, a couple of them have VCCs. It just depends on what you're doing. And then the ultralights, I've got ultralight spiral flutes for hunting, and I've also got carbon barrels. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for. Well, I mean, what do you got to add for contours there, Nick?
Oh, that's just it. It seems like the 125 straights are getting a little more popular. And I guess it comes down to, I always get asked, like, well, I want a heavier barrel because it's going to be more accurate. Generally, heavier barrels can hold point of impact through a little bit more heat than a lighter one can. But that also comes back down to stress. I've seen 3B barrels run 10, 15 shot strings that held very good tight groups. But I do think that the farther down you profile a barrel, the more of a chance you have of knocking the bore out of a round, the more lapping the company is going to have to do after profiling to make sure that that barrel's round inside and you get rid of those tight spots. For example, if you were to take a 3B barrel, push a lap, pour a lead lap in it, push it to the front, run some flutes over it, and then try to pull it back through. Generally, you're at the very least going to feel tight spots in that barrel again from the tool pressure. Now, I know there's some guys out there and there's some more modern tooling and some more adaptive ways of machining that keeps a lot of that from happening as compared to like fluting a barrel on, like an old Bridgeport mill versus, a CNC where we kind of have the saying, like when we're milling, that we wade into the water, we don't dive into it, because the CNCs have a better way of sloping into a cut rather than just punching it. So there's, like I said, there's more technology out there for making these products better and better and better. But I also believe, I'm going to get in some trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think there's a few different kinds of barrel companies out there. You have a handful of them, a very small handful, maybe 4 of them, that are just outstanding companies. They make great barrels. They do things the way they've always done things. They're not willing to change things. So production is what it is. Barrels take the amount of time that they're going to take, whether that's because they don't want to add manpower, can't afford to add machines. I don't know. It's, I don't work in that side of it, so I can't comment on it. We have other companies that are really good, but nobody knows about them. They probably make a very good barrel. They just don't market themselves well. And we have the other kind of barrel company that when those barrels showed up here, I just send them right back out the door. I'll write a refund check to the customer for the chambering service and just let them know I'm really sorry. I won't cut these. It's just what it is.
Some look like a beaver went through them. I mean, it's rough. I mean, DeWalt makes this shit look good. I'm telling you, it's bad.
Yeah, we've seen some that were so bad. One of those alphabet companies, there was a new carbon startup a while back. They sent us some barrels and they shot so bad. Like we've seen jacket separation a lot with, like overspinning a bullet, too much velocity. We were actually, out of a 20-inch barrel, we were shredding 308 jackets. Like it was the contour. It was so rough that it was literally pulling everything apart.
And that's bad because 308 goes the speed of smell. So
right. It is just, honestly, I'd never seen anything that bad in my life. I've also seen some barrels just very recently that were some of the best barrels I've ever looked at, like hands down. So we're working at both ends of the spectrum here. The question isn't making a really good barrel once. The question is, how do we do it 2,000 times a year and make sure that every one of them shoots just like that? That's the question. I mean, so like, here's a 3-shot group out of that barrel that we did. There's a 5. And here's a 10. Like, how do we make all of them exceptional? That's really the goal. And I don't know that any of us can without cherry picking. And yeah, things are, if we were to make all of them, like, yeah, stuff's going to be expensive.
So here's the way we're looking at it, just so you guys know out there. We can go buy cheaper barrels. A lot of gun builders out there are going to try and find the cheaper barrel, and the cheaper barrel, and the cheaper barrel, and they don't care. We still spend a lot of money on higher end barrels because we know that the customers are going to enjoy it. They're going to tell their friends about it and everything else. Does it cost us more money? Why are our barrels more expensive? Well, it's because we're not trying to chase our way to the bottom of the thing to try and make more money. Because in the end, a lot of these guys, and don't tell any of these big builders this is going to be our little secret on here, so don't share it. But if they were to take the time and put quality barrels on their stuff, they could probably sell a lot more of them because they're not fighting inconsistencies with accuracy and with velocity and all the other issues that they're having. But they would rather race to the bottom. Now we're actually looking for a little bit more expensive barrel to see where we can have that, competition grade all the way across the board, whether it's hunting, whether it's whatever, comes along with it. So we've got a bunch of questions. Let me get a couple. So this is one that I want to hit real quick. And it comes with the fluting side. A lot of people are like, oh, I have a barrel that's already chambered. Can I flute it? Hell no. We will not touch it because you start messing with harmonics. You start messing with everything that goes on that barrel. You flute a barrel before you ever chamber it, before you ever do any of that. A lot of people will re-lap a barrel after they flute it because it changes everything, right? So
it doesn't mean that it will every time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I know this is coming after we make that statement is, well, I fluted my barrel and it still shoots awesome. There's lots of guys out there that will flute a barrel for you. We're just not one of them. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like for us, it's a, are we willing to risk it for just to get an extra $150? Not willing to risk it. Mm-hmm. Like Cole said, when we order fluted barrels, generally I order them from the barrel maker, fluted and then lapped. That way we have almost zero chance of having any problems with that barrel. We're all about minimizing that risk, not just for us, but for you. So
mm-hmm. Now to finish his answer, he goes, how much weight will it really save? And you're talking ounces. You're not talking very much. Now for the guy that cares about ounces, the backpack hunter or whatever he is, most of it, to me, for most people, is just visual. They like the look of it. The flutes look badass. They can paint them different colors. They're just different, and that's kind of one of the big things that people flute stuff. Now, it might save you a few ounces. Some of the carbons are definitely heavier than others. Some of the steel's definitely heavier than others, but you've got to understand the lighter you go, the more recoil. So you could, depending on who you are, you might not be as accurate because you're handling recoil differently. And the heat, you're going to start, your groups might start expanding after 1 or 2 shots. Now, if you're a really good hunter, you only need 1. But if you suck, then you might need 10, 15, whatever your mag can hold. So
it's funny you brought that up because we just did a really lightweight 7 PRC for one of the JTAC guys with Naval Special Warfare. And his comment was, man, this thing's a nail driver, but it's not like any of the other guns you've built for me. Like I have to focus on what I'm doing or it's not happening. Mm-hmm. Like, most of that guy's guns are 14, 15 pounds scoped. Then we put him in a gun that's sub 7 pounds scoped. And, he's like, yeah, you got to mind your P's and Q's. Like you got to really come back to the basic fundamentals of marksmanship or you're going to send a flyer downrange. Sometimes some extra weight helps, but I've only seen one fluting contour that really does reduce weight. And that's that SpaceX pattern that Chad Dixon does. That thing is, it's crazy looking, but it actually took the weight of an M24 up to about that of a proof carbon fiber Sendero, but it's expensive. You're looking at almost $300 over the cost of a carbon fiber barrel by the time you pay for that fluting and the chambering service plus the blank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean this. Like I took my little boy hunting a couple weeks ago, shot a 6.5 PRC, and I have a lighter 6.5 PRC, but I took my heavy one, which kicked my ass because it was heavy. But I did that because I wanted him to be comfortable behind it because I wanted a recoil management and everything else. I can do it, but I knew he couldn't. And a lot of you hunters out there, you're going to have to do the same thing. You're going to have to understand that everybody's like, oh, lighter, 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 because somebody told me to, you know. And I did a podcast on this on Long Range Tactics a long time with Scott Satterley, and he said the hunting rifle that you probably want is between 8 and 10 pounds. It really is for most people. You just got to suck it up and freaking pack it. But that will help you, especially in these bigger calibers like 300 PRC 7, you know, something that's higher recoiling. Magnum, my 28 nozzler is only 7 pounds with the scope, but most people do not want to touch it because of the way it recoils. I have it because I want to pack it. So that's something you got to think about when you look at profiles and different things. Definitely, probably somebody else asked, what is your lightest carbon? And that's probably the Proof. They definitely are probably the lightest, but they're harder to get right now for some reason. I don't know what's going on over there. And they're definitely a little bit more finicky to heat, but that's because they are lighter. So they still shoot great. We still sell a lot of freaking Proofs, but that's the reasoning. We started to go look at a couple other companies to start doing some stuff for us, but we haven't really settled on anything yet.
Well, that's kind of the problem, right? It's like there's a lot of people doing carbon fiber right now, but there's only a couple of them doing a really good job with the carbon fiber. And a lot of that doesn't come down to the carbon fiber itself, but the barrel that's under the carbon. You know, like we've seen a ton of that. Either the barrel's too heavy because they're not using enough carbon, it's a good barrel, or the barrel's really light, but it's not very accurate because it wasn't a very good barrel to begin with. Proof, I think right now has probably the best combination of barrel versus carbon technology. There's not really anybody, I don't think, super competing with them at this point.
Mm-hmm. Not yet. I mean, with
Not
everything,
yet.
you're going to get it. I mean, actions are going down. The new Falcors are 19 ounces, which is nuts. Hey, we're going to have some of those in pretty soon if you're looking for them. But they're definitely phenomenal. Everything's starting to go down. But again, a lot of you guys and gals that aren't huge hunters, quit listening to the "I need the lightest thing possible" because
no shit.
It's not the truth.
Sorry,
Not
sorry about my mouth, but
you potty mouth.
It drives us nuts though. You know, well, my friend, he said he can get a 6-pound rifle, and then my other buddy's got a 5-pound rifle, and I want y'all to build me a 4-pound rifle. And it's like, I don't want to build you a 4-pound rifle. I want to build you something that you're gonna like shooting, something that you're actually gonna use. Because a 4-pound rifle, to be honest with you, our PH, our Shinobi PH, probably our most popular selling rifle. This one scales at 5 pounds 4 ounces without the break on it. This thing's light. You can't make any mistakes with it. It's a deadly accurate rifle, and with no input from the shooter, this thing will shoot right there with everything else we build on the target end. But the input from the shooter affects it greatly. You can't make any mistakes like you can with that big blue behemoth behind me. That thing's so heavy, you could sneeze and pull the trigger and maybe pull a half minute group with it, where this one here, just the input from your head on the stock being different from shot to shot can affect it. So going any lighter than this, I just think we'd be steering people in the wrong direction, because this is not a hard rifle to pack. It's an awesome rifle to pack. And if that extra 6 ounces is bothering you that bad, go take a crap before you hike, I guess. You know, it's like, it really shouldn't bother you.
Jake, he's bought a rifle from us. He's one of them. I think he was crying the other day because he didn't have a lefty. I said, shoot the right way. You know, that's how it goes. But he said, what is your opinion on barrel length? We tell everybody 22 inches. The reason why is the suppressor will add a little bit of velocity because of pressure, right? So if you want, you know, a 24-inch velocity, you put a 22 on there with a suppressor. It'll bring your velocity back up a little bit. And also, you don't want to, I tell everybody, do you want a lightsaber or not? This giant freaking thing waving around through the trees and grabbing shit and everything else. So when you add, depending on the suppressor to the end of it, that's it is. And I'll do a little pinch out to Silencer Central right now. That new Banish Backcountry, short, very short, works great suppressor. So go check those out.
I used to use those long barrels, and I'll tell you, I have broken a rear view mirror off my windshield. I've cracked my windshield. I have also gotten clotheslined off a snowmobile and flipped upside down, chasing, trying to get on some elk just because that barrel was so long, plus my suppressor. And don't like any, I'm sure it's coming, but don't act like any of you guys are above jumping out of the truck when a bull runs across the road. That big old 6x6. I'm not shooting that because I don't hunt from the bullshit. Shut up! You're gonna run out of your truck and shoot like I would.
You know where Nick hunts. He's out of the truck.
Well, I don't have a cup holder in my tree stand, man.
Oh my hell.
Yeah,
Every one of these stories, you guys all caught that, right? When I got out of my truck, when I got off my snowmobile. It wasn't when he was walking, it was when he was driving his ass around. Oh my hell, that's funny.
That's the benefit of living in Wyoming. We don't have to work all that hard to get a good animal. No.
We don't know. That's Iowa.
It's also the benefit of being able to shoot a long ways.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I don't consider myself a good hunter. I'm a good shooter, better shooter than I am a hunter.
Yeah, I do everything shitty. John Ditmore, what profile and still a barrel for hunting NRL Hunter to keep the weight down? Honestly, because you're shooting, the thing about NRL Hunter is in standard hunter, you're only going to shoot 2 rounds, 3 rounds, maybe before the animal's gone. NRL Hunter, they're shooting more. So I think you're going to want a little bit more steel in it, and then maybe a good fluting. We've built we just actually built Proof's shooting team some rifles, and they all use their Proof carbon, of course. But if it were me, I'd probably do a fluted medium Palma, something like that, to get your weight back down, but give you enough heat mitigation from the steel, and then it'll help you a little bit with the recoil too. That's just my opinion, and then you've got to worry about how long you want it. And I know you NRL hunters have to stay under a certain poundage, certain weight point. So you'd have to figure out, put everything together and kind of run a program on see what it would weigh all together. But if it were me, it'd probably be a fluted medium Palma. What about you, Nick?
I don't know. I'm really biased by this, and I know it's easier for me to say than you guys that I hate building that. I want a gun for this, but I'm also going to do that. So, John, I'm not trying to put down your question, but the big deal to me is that the jack of all trades gun is going to do a couple of things okay, but it's going to do nothing really well. And that's, I think, where a lot of people, especially guys that are just getting into it, get in trouble, is they try to do that. And they end up with a gun that's like, let's say, for exactly what you're talking about here. If we do the medium Palma, chances are that's going to put you in the weight bracket you want to be in for NRL Hunter, but it's going to be a little too heavy to pack. It's going to be just a little bit obnoxious to pack. And if you're, and it's also going to come down to the type of hunting you do. If you're just sitting in a tree stand, you don't walk, maybe you only walk 1,000 yards to a stand, then the medium Palma, your crossover gun would probably work just fine. If you're hunting where I hunt and you're at 11,000 feet and you're huffing and puffing and it's steep, you're probably going to think real hard about leaving that gun up against a tree with a sticky note on it that says it's yours if you want to pack it out. It's just not that fun. I think the best advice I can give you is if you're going to build a gun, especially a custom gun, purpose build the rifle. Build it. Let's say you get a carbon fiber barrel that you put on once a year, right in the fall, just right at the end of summer, you sight it in, you hunt with it, you take it off, you put your medium Palma back on, that's your blaster. That's the one you're going to go out and compete with, and it's cheaper to replace. You can go ahead and keep doing that, and you just have a one and done barrel on the side. I think that's kind of the stepping stone, right? We all kind of start there, and then a couple of years later, we just have 2 separate guns that we end up using.
Yeah, and that's why if you're going to do that, you need to look for an action that's prefit capable, which most of them today are. I mean, most of any of the new custom, or if they're not, they need to have their shit examined. It's how it is. But, I guess you've got to decide, is it just going to be for that, or is it going to be for a little bit of everything, which not everybody can afford multiple guns. So that's that.
Right.
Alan wants to know what barrels shot those groups. You wish you knew. We're not telling you yet. We're working on something.
Sorry about that. I've had 7 phone calls today asking about that barrel. We just can't let it out of the bag yet.
We're not freaking talking about it yet. We will soon. Jake, we did build him a 7-pound 300. It was on I got to think, XLR. I think it was an XLR element. I can't remember. I think so.
I believe it was. Yep.
Yeah. Brian asked, benchmark or OMR?
Benchmark. Shit, did I say that too fast? Fuck. Sorry.
We're good. We're good. Anyway, with the 223 Wild and AR platform, will a 20-inch barrel make any difference versus an 18-inch barrel velocity? Yes, and a 223, every little bit will make to a point. It's just like in 22 long rifle. You go too long, it'll actually adversely slow the bullet down because you're not getting enough dwell. The other problem with ARs is you're losing some of that gas to go up and run your your system back. Like I built a 26-inch 223 Wild to see if I could shoot 1,000. Guess what? I didn't need it. It didn't do any good. I could have built it in a 22 or 24 and been just fine. So it does make an effect, but in 223 it will give you more of effect than it will in some of the others, I think, in my opinion. Let's see. Jason asks, thoughts on switch barrel actions like the Seekins Hit or Terminus Zeus? We do a lot of them. We do a lot of barrels for these two. The end of the day, a lot of people have to still have headspace gauges and stuff. And me personally, once I get my my vice bench, or I can't even talk, vice bench, and just torque it. I mean, honestly, they're all freaking quick change. All right, to a point.
Every one of them. I here's the thing. I mean, the quick change actions are fine, and there's a lot of them that are pretty dang good. And it's just my personal opinion. I'll probably get crucified for saying it. Accuracy International has the best quick change system. Period. It's also patented on like 30 different points, so it's not going to get replicated by anybody anytime soon. Outside of that exact system, which I do consider to be as close to perfect as you can get, just, like you can buy a Viper barrel vise off Brownells for like $65. You can buy an action wrench for anywhere between $60 and $100. For that $160 investment, every action you have is now a switch barrel. They're very easy to take on and off. You can't mess it up. That's why we do shouldered pre-fit barrels. You screw them until they're tight, and that's it. You're going to torque them to 65 foot-pounds or 100, whatever your preference is, but you can't screw them up. So that's the nice thing about not using barrel nuts.
We're not doing that again.
We're not doing this one today yet.
No, we're not doing that.
Post over the weekend.
Holy shit, that was bad. Somebody got.
I shouldn't have put that up. The Jameson got brought out, and I was like, what would be really funny is if I posted this thing up.
Dude, that one comment was the best. He goes, "If some of those gunsmiths could read, they'd be really mad at you."
Yeah, and I had to have Cole read it for me because.
Oh man, that was the best. That was
Cole, can you read this comment for me? I don't know what it says.
Oh well, it's freaking hilarious. David said he's got 223 Wild at 40 feet per second. So I mean, you're not a lot, but it's enough. I guess the thing is, are you going to suppress it? Are you just going to break it? What are the things? So
the free bore really makes the difference in that 223. The only difference between 223 Rem, the 223 Wild, and the 5.56 is free bore. It's just free bore. Like we've cut apart 223 cases and 5.56 cases. We've seen 5.56 cases that were thinner than the 223 cases, and vice versa. It's all in the free bore. So I think that Wild has like 75,000 free bore, most of them. But I can get a reamer made that says 223 Wild and have 100 free bore, 100,000 free bore, or 150 or 170,000 free bore put on it, whatever I want. As the bullets get longer, generally so does the free bore until we get to the point of like Magnum cartridges and short actions, and then we start bringing it back again to keep you inside the magazine.
Yeah, but that's the thing is you got to understand you're still stuck at mag length no matter what you do, unless you want a single feed 223, which none of us want a single feed 223. And those big giant bullets in a 223 Wild don't fit very well. I mean, you're going to be jumping them, and that's the difference in 5.56 and 223 Wild. and 223. 223 is kind of the wild is the middle point, and you can kind of get a little bit more out of it. John said, thanks. That's great advice. Let's see. Barrel nuts. Oh, Lord. Here we go again. Here we go.
I have a savage that needs a barrel. Sorry. Here's the thing, Jason. If you want to rebarrel your savage, send your action up. We will flange a barrel on for you. When you get it back from us, it's no longer going to have a barrel nut on it. We just don't do it. It's the only one we do that has a locking nut on it is the SIG, and we begrudgingly did that. We do a lot of it these days, it seems like, but anything we can keep you guys from having a mistake with, we're going to take care of it in-house.
Mm-hmm.
As much of it as possible. If there's a way to do the SIGs in the future where we don't have to put a lock ring on them, like that barrel nut type thing, we're not going to do it. We're going to try and get away from that as well.
Mm-hmm. Cooper asked, "Are we building 22 arcs?" I don't think we've done any yet because it's been more predominantly ARs, but we haven't done any bolt stuff yet, have we?
No. And the 6 arc was the same way. The Valkyrie, the 22 nozzler, everybody, oh, you got to get these reamers. We're going to do one. And then people go out there and go, crap, it's kind of hard to find like an action with that arc bolt face. I'm not going to worry about it. And I think we've cut maybe 10 6 arcs since it's come out. It's just very, very few.
Yeah, most of my stuff like that's just AR. I mean, that's what it was built for anyway. A lot of it. Right. Let's see.
I think it's going to be great in an AR-15.
Yeah, John's got a point. Hey, we are working on something. Don't do barrel nuts. Needs to be a T-shirt, stickers. We got it. We're on it. Don't you worry, John. We got you, boo. We'll send you one. Just remind me. No can, just a break. Just looking for a better barrel. Yeah, 24 is fine. It is what it is. Stainless steel media inside a barrel is not good. No good. Mm-mm.
I've seen that happen a couple times, and I actually did it myself. I can't remember what gun it was. It was years and years ago. Who was the guy that did the STM stuff back in the day?
Oh, Corey?
Corey, yeah. I
got one. It's right over there.
Yeah, I used to use them a lot. And actually, Alpha recommends that you don't use them because they can actually beat up a portion of the brass. But that's a different topic.
Uh-huh.
But I remember the first time I did it, seeing those pins get stuck in the primer pocket or wedged sideways in the neck. And I remember just being so freaking careful to try and make sure that I got them out, shaking them, visually looking in there, making sure I didn't have a pin in there. And as careful as I was, I did end up ruining a barrel, blasting one down. It didn't blow up or anything, but when I went in and cleaned and put my scope in there, it was wrecked. I mean, those pins will absolutely shred your bore. It's not a good thing. Be careful with them.
Yep, you got to be. And somebody on Instagram, Katie Miller 118 said, "Why build a 22 arc or 6 arc when there's 22 BR or 6 BR? Doesn't make any sense." I mean, I've got a 22 Creed and a 6 Creed or a 60T. 60T is still one of my absolute favorites.
I think it makes sense. There's a lot of people out there that want that consistency, the extra power, and they don't want to have to reload.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the custom gun world, you wouldn't expect somebody like us to say that, but Straight Jacket Armory really got its name by doing tweaks on reamers, really focusing on the Hornady ammo, kind of working with those guys and seeing what it was going to take to make chambers that shot everything really well. Because you guys have all seen those companies out there that say, well, we'll build your rifle. The rifle's $10,000. But it doesn't really work unless you shoot our magic bullets over here that, then everything works really nice. But you got to shoot the magic bullets, and the magic bullets are $200 a box. We wanted to make something that you can go down to the store, buy factory ammo with, and get the same performance that you would get with handloads. Yeah, the SDs are going to be a little bit higher, but inside of the range that most people shoot at, you're going to be good to go. Not everybody has the time to reload. Quite frankly, Cole and I don't reload much anymore, hardly ever, unless we're testing a barrel. Generally, 90% of the time, I'm shooting factory ammo these days.
I call Hornady.
Just don't find it good.
I need something.
Something's happening.
Nosler's been really good to us too. Like, I mean, any of them have, but Nosler and Hornady especially, and then for factory ammo, Hornady. Coffee McLovin says my 6.5 Creed STA shoots factory Hornady. This one, right? What's that? That one, right? That one. I just took it and shot with a bunch of Navy SEALs a while back, and they were all freaking blown away. I shot a little under a 4-inch group, 5-shot group at 1,000. And I was like 3.6-inch group at 1,000 yards, 5-shot group. That's with factory ammo, factory Hornady ammo, and that rifle. It's a proof on a Falcor and MDT. They shoot phenomenal. If they don't, I tell everybody the easy button is 6.5 Creed and Hornady ammo. If it doesn't shoot, send it back to your freaking gunsmith and tell them they find a new hobby. So that's
if you got a barrel from us that doesn't shoot, you need to send it back to us and tell us we need to get a new hobby. I mean, for real, like people shouldn't be fighting with barrels these days. Not today. I mean, sometimes customers will call me and they'll be like, man, I didn't want to be a pain in the butt, but I got this barrel from you guys and it's just not working out. And I got 600 rounds on it now. What should I do? I'm like, you should have sent it back 500 rounds ago. Please, please, please don't fight with a barrel like that. And the other thing is, like, whether it's with us or anybody else, if you have a problem with a barrel, go back to the people you bought it from and give them a chance to work on it. Because we are seeing, it's not that we're just now seeing it. We've always seen it, but it's more prevalent now because during COVID, everybody and their dog used their COVID check to go buy a Grizzly lathe and start making barrels in their garage, it seems like, which is fine. I congratulate them. But there's some guys out there, there's a lot of guys out there that they're hurting for work. I'm just going to say it the way it is. They're hurting for work. And you walk into them, hey man, can you take a look at this for me? I had one guy. Oh yeah, that's wrong. The trigger guard's wrong, and that action's wrong, and the stock's wrong, and yeah, the barrel's bad too. And well, it's going to be about $7,000, but I'll fix it for you. And the guy didn't know any better, so he's like, yeah, I better have you do that. And he's like, yeah, if those guys couldn't do it right the first time, The problem that he had was he bought a suppressor. The hand loads, it was actually one of my personal rifles that I had sold him. The load work was done and they were hot. When he put the suppressor on, they were way too hot. That's it. When the suppressor got added on, it was too much. The load needed to be backed off. There was nothing wrong with that gun. That poor guy got hosed for $7,000 because he didn't come back and just give us the chance to do right by him. Like it just,
yeah.
Sometimes that's it. And I don't blame him sometimes for thinking that way, but our job is no different than your job. Like there's a human element here at Straight Jacket Armory, just like there is where you work. And sometimes we miss something, but we'll never turn you away. That's, if we did happen to miss something, it's going to get handled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've had in the last few weeks, I've had a few calls of, hey, I want a new barrel. Okay. What's wrong with yours? Well, I had so-and-so spin it up and it's just not shooting. Okay. Is it like giant groups or is it like a little bit or, oh, well, it's just not shooting. And I'm like, okay, well, who built it? And they tell me, and I said, okay, have you talked to them about it? Have you kind of taken it to them? No, I don't want to do that. And it's like, we stand behind our products. We'd fix it or we'd replace the barrel for you. So why wouldn't you want to come back to us? Now, once bitten, twice shy, right? So the first time doesn't shoot, give them a chance to fix it. If the second time they don't fix it, you're giving us a call. But even we are not above trying to send that person back to whoever did it. As much as we like taking your money, Nick always says that I like your money, but it's not worth it when it comes down to that. We have the respect of now, not all other gun builders, but we have a respect of a lot of gun builders to say, hey, you need to at least give them a chance to make it right and to fix it, and then call us if they don't want to. If they say, oh no, you're not doing it, then we can go through it. But like he said, give the person that option or the chance to fix it. And a lot of you guys,
most of them will.
Yeah. And I wish that I could pimp slap some of these guys that go on and talk shit on gun builders that have something done and something just doesn't work right. And instead of trying to get the bottom of it, they just go on social media in their mom's basement in their underwear and talk shit on everybody. And it's like, don't do that. Give them the chance. Have a conversation with them before you go blasting their name all
Yeah,
over
I
the
mean,
place. Because I've seen it a lot lately for some other, and some of them probably deserve it. I'll give them that. But some
well,
of them,
you don't want me and Cole showing up to where you work and throwing rocks at you while you're mowing, do you? You know, like it's kind of the same thing
we'll
for
do
us.
it. In case anybody's wondering, we'll do it.
You down
Nick
there,
will,
shut up.
Nick will probably throw it under the lawnmower and get hit back with the rock, but it will do it.
Yeah. No, my luck for sure.
Yeah, no.
For sure.
Travis Turman asked, and this is a big one we've been laughing about lately because Proof put out the video of, hey, you don't really need to break in barrels, and guys lost their minds.
Oh, they
Oh my
lost their mind
god.
over my first video 7 years ago. Over
Oh my goodness gracious, these guys lost their mind. Here's how I break in a barrel. I go grab a box of ammo and I go shoot the whole box. Now, this isn't necessarily how you should do it, but I go shoot the whole box, make sure there's no pressure signs, make sure there's no issues, clean the crap out of it, and then start working on my loads. That's just how I do it. This whole shoot one and clean one stuff has been a myth forever, and I think it was honestly done in the beginning so the barrel companies could get more of your money because you burned your barrel out by cleaning it so freaking much that you wore the damn riflings out of it. But
I've seen guys bore bright barrels. I did a 6.5 WSM for a guy. He calls me up. It's like, dude, this is the best shooting barrel ever. Thanks, blah, blah, blah. 2 months later, he calls me back. This barrel is shit. It's shooting all over the place. I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, the machine work didn't change. What happened? You know, like something's happened that made that barrel stop working. So generally, for example, for the first 500 rounds of a barrel's life, a 6.5 cal barrel, I should be able to take a .2555 pin gauge or bushing and slide it down the barrel and just barely feel it grab on the way down. This guy's barrel pinned it like it was like 258 something. Like he had taken it like 3 thousandths bigger in diameter because I don't know what the guy was doing. You know, I honestly don't. He was a horrible customer. I hope he never comes back. But he scrubbed this barrel to the point where it was like a meth head and a scratch and sniff sticker. It was horrible. I mean, like,
oh, we're assholes.
like that thing was so polished. When I put my scope in there, I saw his freaking reflection in it. It was. I was like, "What'd you do to this thing?" He's like, "Well, I just put some bore bright." I was like, "For how long?" Like, I mean, like, how much meth are you doing? It doesn't need to be like that. I like to shoot a barrel, like Cole says, same thing. I'll shoot a box or two, maybe 40 shots. When I bring it back, I'll put my camera in it. I like to see kind of where
Don't
the
tell people to go buy cameras, Nick.
Yeah,
we talked about this.
I know, but here, this is what I do. I like to see where it's loaded, right? Because some barrels load in different spots, and sometimes you can even feel that on your patch. Most barrels will load carbon the first 6, hard carbon for the 6 to 12 inches of the bore, and then you'll start seeing that clean up, and generally they grab a little more copper towards the muzzle, and some of them don't. Like if I see a barrel that's really grabbing copper hard like halfway down, obviously there's a tight spot in the barrel, and I might need to get in there with some JB and really give that a good scrubbing to see what it's doing. Generally that's going to show up on the target too, but once I give it that first initial good cleaning after those 40 rounds, heck, sometimes I won't clean a barrel till it's shot out unless it tells me I need to. I always say barrels are like old ladies. They'll let you know when you're doing it wrong. Like they're going to let you know.
This rifle, the one I told you I was shooting the other day, I didn't even, that was the break-in process. We went and put 200 and something rounds through it, and which is, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's just what we did. We were in a hurry. We were in a short process, but the freaking thing shot and it barely sped up a little bit. I adjusted on the fly and away we went. The biggest thing you've got to look at, and you've got to know what you're looking for, is as you eject, my friend down the street bought a rifle for his kid the other day, said he was having issues. I said, well, did you look at the brass? And he goes, well, no, why would I look at the brass? And I said, dude, the brass tells you everything. The brass will tell you when it's starting to, have issues. Your primer pockets are going to start going. You're going to have ejector marks. You're going to have swirls where it's putting a lot of pressure on the back. You've got to watch your brass. Your brass is such a big thing as far as, seeing when it needs to be cleaned, because the brass will be the first thing that tells you usually when you've got, like a carbon ring in the throat or whatever it is. So you've got to really listen. And when they say listen to your barrel, that's the first place you listen is your brass. Now, the next place, how's your bolt open? Is it getting super stiff? Is everything changing? At downrange, you seeing points of impact move all over. That's when it starts talking to you and telling you, and you've got to be smart enough with it that you can listen. But yeah, our break-in process is shoot. If you want to break it down, you want to be shorter, I'd say shoot 10, clean it. Don't use any abrasives. Don't use any of that
use
shit.
the bore guide, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
Please.
use bore guide. Don't get all that crap in your trigger, because then you're going to wonder why it doesn't fire right. And then, do another 20 and then clean it, and then 40 and then clean it. If you want to go down that road. But again, listen to your barrel and let it talk to you. It's going to tell you exactly what it wants to do as far as break in. And if you're having issues right off the bat, it's probably, there's probably maybe some chamber issues and some other stuff, but that's where you need to have a conversation. Here's the biggest thing that I've heard lately is guys will call me, dude, I'm 200 rounds down this barrel and I'm fighting it. Well, why the hell did you shoot 200 rounds down the freaking barrel without calling us? Let us explain to you maybe some things to look for. But by that time, they're pissed off. They're throwing a fit. They can't figure it out. And I'm like, dude, it was something simple that we could have helped you with in the beginning. Don't go fighting it and don't get mad. Don't go waste ammo. If the barrel isn't shooting in the first 50 to 100 rounds, call us. Have a conversation with us. Why? What's going on?
Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to, like, for you guys that are listening that aren't using Straight Jacket Armory, that don't have your barrels cut by us, listen to your gunsmith about it, because 10 years ago, cutting chambers on a manual machine, we definitely preached the shoot and clean thing, because our throats were pretty rough. We thought they were smooth, but they were pretty rough compared to what we do today. So like every time you start and stop, reaming or drilling, I don't care if you're drilling on wood or it's steel, when you lift that reamer up, or your drill or your core drill or whatever, and start again, it leaves a mark in the side of the on the side of the chamber wall or in the throat, and you can see all those little start stops in there if you look real close. And what happens is you fire, and those little ridges where the bullet compresses into the lands and squeezes into the grooves, it will leave copper behind right there for a while. So you got to clean that out, and you fire lap it in until it's smooth. The way we cut barrels today, you don't need to do it, because we're taking it all out in one shot. There's a flush system in there. It's keeping all the chips out. So those, that throat's actually, generally, it's a little smoother than even the hand lapping in the bore is. So on our barrels, you don't need to do it, but you might have to, depending on how your gunsmith cut. And so, most gunsmiths know what it takes to get their barrels going. So I would recommend that if you're not using our stuff, you're using somebody else's, you take that gunsmith's advice.
Yeah. Jason asked the best way to clean a carbon ring. My thing is, I like, with anything like a stuck nut or anything, I like to let it soak a little bit, because that seems to help. So kind of stick your rifle up and, so that it stays in there, and maybe we use Kroil oil a lot because it's a penetrating oil. And then some good carbon remover, like a Hoppe's, or, we've been trying M-Pro 7, but Nick isn't as impressed with it. So trying to get something in there, and then just, taking a good bore mop and, trying to clean it out with a brush or whatever. Just don't get crazy with a brush, because you're going to scratch the crap out of everything. But it's something that you're just going to have to kind of go in there and clean. But it does come out easier when it's been soaked, if that makes sense.
My favorite way is using a chucking reamer, which you guys don't have. I seriously, a dull reamer, a worn out reamer, is the best thing for taking a carbon ring out of the neck area of a chamber. And I've seen some come in that are so bad that it's not even worth my time to try and soak them out. I pop the barrel, I throw an old reamer in there, use the reamer to cut the ring out, and we're good to go. But with that being said, if you have a carbon ring developing in your right at the end of the cartridge, and it's keeping your necks from opening up, chances are you have another problem. that's another 8 to 12 inches out in front of that bore, and you have a hard carbon. You have that hard carbon buildup that's starting to happen. I've had a lot of people send barrels back that they weren't shooting, and we get them back, and I was like, "Hey, did you clean these?" "Yeah, we cleaned them." "How did you know it was clean?" "Well, I was getting a clean patch." "Okay," and I'll send them some pictures on the scope, and it's like, "Dude, looks like you had a barbecue in here. You were drinking beer, and you invited all your friends." Like it, it is black in here. Like, I'll get this cleaned out for you. We'll send it back. There does come a point where you have to use abrasives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And here's a big one I want to point out to everybody. Everybody's buying. Me and Nick have had, oh Lord have mercy, bless our souls, have had a lot of people that have gone out and they've bought borescopes. And this is, oh Lord have
It can
mercy.
be a good thing or a bad thing.
But we get constantly, hey, I stuck a borescope in here and I see this. Well, have you shot it? Well, no. All right. So why are you getting yourself worked up about it? How it could come out after you shoot a couple rounds. Like that's the whole point. But if you're not having issues shooting it, why screw it up? Why mess with it? And the biggest problem that most people look for is they buy one of these and they don't know what they're looking for. You don't
Sure.
know what you're looking for with the borescope. You just, oh, that might be an issue. Is it not? And then you're just putting, we all know, and I preach this on the Long Range Tactics podcast is, dude, quit putting crap in your head. Quit putting second guesses in your head because that's going to affect your accuracy more than anything. If you go to the range thinking it's not going to shoot, it's probably not going to shoot because it's you. It's the Indian, not the arrow.
Well, the biggest thing people look at in chambers that they complain about, especially our chambers, if you've looked at them in a scope, they're so clean from one end to the other, and they're hand lap barrels, so the rest of the rifling's clean. There's always a spot on top of the land where you're gonna see that it's not that it's really scuffed. It's just you're going from like a real mirrored finish to something that's a little less bright because the pilot that we're using on our reamer that sits about an inch ahead of where the throat is it's turning in there while the lay's turning. So that bushing, as it's rubbing up against those riflings. It doesn't hurt anything. It's always going to be there. You're always going to have just a little bit of contact interface between that pilot and the lands. That's one of the things that people really look at, and they're like, "Well, what's this up here? This looks like scratches." Well, you can't tell depth with a borescope anyway. Shoot it a couple times, you're not going to see it anymore. And there's no way to get rid of it. We're not going to stop using pilots either. Like we use pilots for a reason. We're not going to stop using them.
Mm-hmm. 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 Somebody asked barrel length for 22 Creed. Mine's a 22 inch. Love it. Absolutely love it. It's good for swinging. Put a suppressor on. Good to go.
22 is nice in between for almost anything. Really.
Yeah. 20 or 22 on a 22 Creed, you're going to be good. A lot of people now are doing a little bit slower twist, shooting a lot of bullets, so they're freaking flying out of there at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But
guys that are shooting monos, they want more, because speed really counts with a monolithic bullet. But if you're shooting conventional bullets, you don't necessarily need all that speed. In fact, we're seeing a little bit better performance out of conventional bullets, like the ELDM, for example. They're not flying apart when they're not going 3,000 feet per second. They actually seem to do a little better job.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody asked, K.E. Miller over there asked 3/4 muzzle threads over 30 cal. No, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. A lot of people, I would never go half 28 for sure, because you're getting rid of that. And we all know one of the most important parts of a barrel is the crown. I mean, it's the last thing your bullet touches. And if there's any heat issues, if there's anything. So 98% of ours are all 5/8 24, unless they're 338 or larger, right?
And it depends on that depends, because like we've been cutting a lot of 3/4 threads on 6mm barrels lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I know why guys are doing it. You're not going to get any more accuracy out of it, and you're dang sure not going to get any more barrel life. You're not going to get any more barrel life out of it. Now, and this is a very small exception. We're talking like 0.2% of people that might be shooting Palma. If you're shooting Palma in like a Palma match pistol, and you're restricted to, I think those guys are restricted to 14 or 16 inches, you have a lot more pressure back there. And it's like what is the muzzle pressure at 26 inches for most cartridges? Right around 4,500, 6,500 psi. As you get back towards the breech, that pressure starts increasing, to about 65,000 at the chamber. The more pressure you have there, the more susceptible the muzzle is to belling or bell mouthing, knocking it out of round. So if you're shooting a really short barrel, it might make a difference, but I would say, 18 inches on out, you're never going to see it. Your throat's going to wash out long before that crown does.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the biggest thing that damages crowns is people cleaning their rifle barrel, right?
Oh, yeah. Pulling that jag back through.
Yeah, you just got to be careful with that for sure. Carbon wrap barrels worth the extra money versus fluted barrel. Here's the deal. We can make both of them shoot the same. They can both shoot 1/4 inch if you're good enough. The big thing is heat dissipation is the big. We kind of talked about that earlier. And, just the look. What look do you want? A lot of people just really like the carbon because they're fatter and they look good in a stock and they are what they are. But a lot of companies now, I've seen a lot more lately that they're just putting out fluted stainless steel barrels because they're cheaper and people would rather have them. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. We'll build either one. You just tell us.
Looking at the price, so like if you buy let's say a Bartlein barrel, 400, what are they, $480 now?
450.
Blank, 450. Okay, we're going to charge you $450 to chamber it. You're at $900 already, and then another $250 to $300 for fluting. You're actually paying the same amount for, let's say you do a medium Palma with flutes or a 3B with flutes for a barrel you're actually paying the exact same amount now that the prices have gone up as you would for a carbon fiber barrel. And if you're looking to get rid of weight, the carbon fiber is going to be lighter for the same money. So at this point, with the barrel prices where they are, I used to say a couple of years ago, like, hey, it's only an extra $100 to do carbon over the fluting and you'll save more weight. People will do it that way, but now they're really about the same price.
But this is just for the proof ones. The other ones, the Bartleins, the benchmarks, they're all going to be heavier. They are.
That's correct.
They just leave more steel in it. So you've got to decide what you want to give and take. And a lot of people still really like the benchmarks and the Bartleins, and they'll deal with weight. If it's all about weight, you're going to have to go down to that. I mean, to get the same weight as you're going to have to go with like a fluted 3B, which is a really
heavily fluted 3B,
which is going to be about the same as the proof. So that's just the what you've got to bring into effect there. Yeah, Alan, did you chamber and frame with the DeWalt or the Milwaukee?
No, I used the Makita. I wasn't breaking out the good stuff for Alan.
I think that's straight. We're good. We got him. Well,
yeah, he watched me chamber. He got to watch and kind of see how our pumps work and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's different.
Yeah, hopefully some of this has helped all of you. We're trying to do more and more of these. Today was kind of short notice, but we're going to try and plan them out for Fridays. We're going to attempt it. And hell, maybe we can turn this into a podcast too, because I know that's where a lot of people listen while they're driving down the road. So if you think we ought to try that and do that, we can. And I, of course, have the other one, Long Range Tactics, if you're not following it. And I think it's shared on here to Long Range Tactics too. I hope you all learned something. And if we can answer any questions, the cool thing about it, when you call Straight Jacket Armory, you talk to me or you talk to Nick. So we can go through a lot of that with you and we can address this. And, we'll even talk to you about other builders, if we can help you out. We're never going to talk negative about other builders. And we're going to all try to help each other out, but
we send work out every week. There's never a week where we don't refer jobs over to other shops, ever.
We don't have the bandwidth or the time or something to do it. And we think somebody else would be really good at doing it. And we've got a really good group of friends that when we go to shop, we hang out with other builders because we're good friends with them. So, and then some of the others, there might be an accident or two that you might want to happen with them, but we won't go down that road. We appreciate y'all for watching. Again, if you have questions, shoot us an email. Let us know what we can help you with. There's no better time to build a rifle for hunting season than right now, because we need the time to build it. So, make sure you're getting planned up for this next hunting season, because don't wait until July to call us and ask for a hunting rifle, because that ain't going to happen. Well, it could.
If you guys get a chance, make sure you go to YouTube and
Mhm.
get on our channel and subscribe. We
Mhm.
are dangerously close to, Cole and I feel, to losing our Facebook our Facebook page due to the restrictions that they're putting on us.
Mhm.
It's growing really rapidly, but it's also drawn a lot of attention from the nerds that be over there,
Mhm.
and we're a little worried about it. We don't want to lose that. So if you guys would head over to our Instagram and our YouTube channel and subscribe, that would be amazing. We want to keep these communication channels open. And then we got some swag stuff. We're not giving it away today. Cole and I are going to come up with some stuff, but we have a ton of hats. Chances are we'll bring something cool back from SHOT Show for you guys that we'll be doing a giveaway on. If you guys want to watch these things, we'll let you guys know how to do that.
Yeah. So if you're going to keep watching, heck, we might even give away some barrels. You never know. So stay on these and help us comment. I mean, that's one of the big things. If you're commenting, we'll try and, there's been a lot of great comments today. So
Very good.
yeah. Troy asked Brooks barrels. They're great if you
Brooks
can
are
get
awesome.
them,
Yeah,
but
Brooks are awesome.
they told us 12 to 14 months on a new order. So there's your answer if you want a Brooks barrel. What did you say to do a Savage when swapping the barrel? We would do a shouldered Savage barrel, not one with a nut. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, just do
Yep.
them the same way.
You
If
know
you like
what?
the way they shoot with a nut, you'll love the way they shoot flanged.
No nuts on barrels. K.E. Miller 118 and Alan Robertson. You guys have been probably our most commenting one. Do me a favor, send me an email, cole@straightjacketarmory.com, and I'll have Jen ship you guys out something next week. Send me an email with your name and your address, and we'll get it out. Thank you for interacting with us, and we appreciate you guys. We couldn't be doing it without you. So Isaac
Absolutely.
asked, do we have any t-shirts or sweatshirts? I'm working on them right now. I'm actually working with my designers on it. The hats and the sweatshirts will be out shortly. So, Alan, you're still going to be waiting a while if you only ordered 6 months ago. Just hate to tell you that. So, okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. And again, holler at us, sales@straightjacketarmory.com or Nick's OnlyFans. So have a good one.
See you guys later.